One pattern that's somewhat common in Python is the iterator pattern. So with the iter pattern is a certain behavior. Actually, it's not just Python, but many other programming languages include the iterator pattern. And the way it works is that you can call the method, and the method returns the next item. So for example, we can create a function count2 with a count, and then we have a bunch of numbers. So for example, 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on. And we'll just return from that the amount specified as parameter. So now what you can do is, for example, for x in count2, which whatever number you specify, print your value. So now we iterate over that data we have here. However, only until the 5th element. So you'll see only until the 5th element. We can change this number. For example, it can go up to 8, and you'll see it iterates over that. If you want, you can do something with the variable there. So that is the iterator. So, or actually we're using the generator. Now the iterator pattern is built into the Python syntax. So we don't have to implement anything ourselves actually. We can just have these or any data. And we can use the Python default syntax because Python has an object-based iterator included. So you can create a new iterator using iter with the data you want to iterate on. And then you can just use next for every time you want to fetch an item. So you'll see that it iterates over the data each time we call the next method. Python has a default implementation for that. So the main thing here is the iter function, which takes an object as arguments and it returns a new iterator object. So in this case we called it it, which is the iterator object. And then we have the next method, and the next method takes the iterator as argument, and each time it's called, it returns the next item from the container, so from the iterator values. So if we call it again, you'll see it doesn't stop at 4 but at 5, and here we go, it stops at 5. If we call it again, you'll see it stops at 6. So each time it continues to the next item until there are no more objects to return, and then the stop iteration exception is thrown. So if we were to do this like many times, we'll get an exception, which is the stop iteration exception. So you'll see stop iteration because there's no more items. So if you try to do it on more than if you try to iterate longer than the actual size of the container, it stops. Now it doesn't have to be just string, it can be any type of object. For example, you can have a bunch of numbers and it would work just as well. So you'll see it iterates over the numbers now, and there is no object behind 9, so it has a stop iterator. Now as I say object, so for example you can have a class and pass objects in here. In Python everything is an object, so we can have a bunch of objects in here. And if we run it, you'll see it outputs 4 objects with the memory address. However, after the first one it throws the stop iteration exception because there are no more items. So what you have to know about the iteration pattern is that it's included in Python by default. You can create a new iterator object using the iter function call, and whenever you call next, it takes the next item from the container.